So on this episode, we have the show starting off with a review of some of the issues that the various cast members have had. And I just love Mia, and I'm going to tell you more a little bit later. But I'm so sick of Wendy, and especially, she has 4 degrees, but I have no idea what they are. I know one is a doctorate in something. That's a PhD, not an MD. And now she's more interested in becoming a Martha Stewart, and she wants to make candles, and all she can talk about is her surgery to her face, to her breasts, to her abdomen, and to her buttocks, and who knows what else she had done. But, I mean, she's so shallow, and she's so jealous. She has a very mean spirit and a very bad personality, very confrontational, argumentative, and just not a good person, and definitely not a good role model. So it starts off, and I'm reminded, okay, here we go with Wendy. And it starts off with Robin laying in bed. The alarm clock goes off, and her husband has to yell at her to get up to get the boys ready for school. And she's complaining. It's only like 8:30. I mean, it's not like really early. It's not like she's getting up at 5 or 4 a.m. and having to get them off to school and get them a warm breakfast and anything. All she has to do is get out of her bed, go over to the kids' room, get them out of the bed, and point them in the direction of their computer. They're doing homeschooling. And then she goes back to bed, and she waits for the alarm to go off again so she can get the other kid up like 3 minutes before he's supposed to be on the computer for homeschooling, and she's complaining the whole time. So this shows Robin has a real problem. One, of course, is depression. She is very sad about her life. She's very sad about her relationship with her husband. She's not fulfilled with her children, and I think that's very serious. She needs to go to see a doctor for mental health, and they can do some counseling, and they might also need to give her some antidepressants. But she also needs to see a regular doctor so that she can see whether or not she has needs for other medications, such as thyroid medication, or who knows what else might be wrong with her. But she definitely needs to go to a doctor and get a full checkup to make sure nothing else is going on that might be causing her extreme tiredness. She doesn't have a full-time job that she has to report to. Now, she is working at her own business, and she is making hats, and then she has to package them and send them off. So it's not something very hard to do at all, and she can do it at her own time. I mean, she can do it early in the morning. She can get up at 4 and start packaging those things, do some from home, do some from the warehouse, and she can do it late in the night. She can do it anytime she wants to. All she needs, if she's going to be leaving the house and go to the warehouse, she needs, of course, someone to watch the kids. But other than that, she has a very flexible job, and a job that she supposedly likes. She created this job herself, so you would assume that this is something that she chose because she likes to do this kind of work, and she likes to do the designing. And she says she's adding clothing to her business, which is going to make it even more demanding. People who do clothing businesses are very, very busy. So Robin needs to assess whether or not she has the energy and the motivation to actually do this kind of business, or whether something else might be more suitable for her energy level. So anyway, we start off, she gets up out of bed complaining. She goes over, gets the kid to the computer, and goes back to bed. Now, unbelievably, Robin believes that waking the kids up 3 minutes before the computer class is supposed to start is adequate. No, you have to be awake and alert and ready to participate. And so those kids should be up. They should have had something to eat. They should have washed, brushed their teeth, the same as if they were going out, so that they can have a chance to clear their heads, clean themselves up, and look presentable on these Zoom calls. Because kids Even though you don't think they care, kids care very much about their appearance, and they want to look like they're cared for at home, like they have good parents and they're coming from a desirable household. So Juan, Robin's husband, comes in and says, she has to do better, and she has to get up and get out of bed and take care of those kids. This is amazing because Robin has expressed that she wanted more children. Well, with this attitude that she has now, that's impossible. That would definitely be the wrong thing to do. And it's obvious that Juan isn't sleeping in the bed. His side of the bed is totally made up and looks like it hadn't been slept up in at all. So he's sleeping in another room, or he came from another house in order to come and make sure that Robin woke up and took care of the kids in the morning. The one kid is even sitting in his bed with the covers over his legs as he's attending the class, the Zoom class, because he didn't have time to get up. And the teacher says, this is your job. School is your job, and you have to take it seriously. Make sure your mom gets you up. So that's more embarrassing when the teacher has to tell the child to tell his mother that he needs to get out of bed in order to take his Zoom classes. The next scene shows Karen Huger getting ready for her Zoom presentation for her business, La Dame, which carries perfume and wigs. And she says she's worked on that for 5 years. She looks great, fabulous, as she's preparing for Zoom. And her husband is participating. He seems happy. And so that looks like everything is going well for Karen. The next scene shows Giselle and Ashley meeting for a little morning snack, and they're having a good time, and then they decide that Giselle is going to throw a pamper party for Ashley because she's due in about a week. Ashley looks very happy, healthy, and unfortunately she's doing a lot of gossiping. I don't like that side of Ashley. And they're reviewing some of the things that were said at Karen's party when Mia was told by Wendy to stop putting her hands in her face, even though Wendy was putting her hands in Mia's face. And Wendy said, well, there are my hands, what are you going to do about it? And Wendy looked shocked. Wendy is very streety. I don't like her. The vibe she gives. She always looks jealous. She always looks mad. She always has a lot of negativity surrounding her. So the next scene, we see Robin, and she's boxing up her hats that she sells. And she says she's behind in packaging her orders. Well, if you're really sincere about a business and this is your passion, you certainly wouldn't be behind, especially when you don't have that many orders. So you kind of have some doubts as to what her passion is and her desire to make this business a success. And then she says that she left the kids home alone because she needed to get away from the kids, and she wanted to do this packaging of the cats in the warehouse. And she said if Juan is too busy to take care of the kids will be all right. Well, that's not really a good attitude for a parent, because if something happens to your kids, someone breaks into the house, the kids do something that's dangerous and one of them gets injured, or any of a number of things that can happen, there's going to be nothing but regret and blame from both sides against each other. If she wants to keep that house happy, she needs to start taking care of her kids, and she needs to figure out times when she can take care of the kids and times when she can package those hats. And some of those hats can be packaged at her house because she doesn't have that many orders. She can do some packaging at the house and then other packaging at the warehouse space that she rents. And she says she's expanding and she wants to have a bigger part of the warehouse so that she can do more mail packaging. The girl helping Robin package her hats is Ethiopian, and then Wendy comes in, who's Nigerian. She greets the Ethiopian girl, and of course they're using very phony voices, and Wendy is wearing spiked, like 6-inch heels. It's totally not clear why in the world she would come and interfere with this work, because clearly she's not ready to work. And then she starts gossiping about Karen's party. Next, we see a scene of Mia, who's at her house with her husband, and they're talking about their business when Mia gets a text saying that Giselle is having this Pamper Ashley Day, and then Mia starts discussing with her husband what happened at Karen's party. Mia says that at the party, when they were playing a game and the husbands were asked who they thought was attractive that they might date out of the group, Mia says Wendy's husband was very attracted to her and she could sense it, and that he couldn't even look her in the eyes, but he felt very controlled by Wendy and was afraid to say anything, so he put down he wasn't attracted to anybody in the group, and Mia knew that was a lie. Then the next scene, we go to Candiace's house, and she's talking to her 2 stepchildren, and they're doing their homework, and Candiace asks them what they want for lunch, and they say something or other, and then Candiace says, well, your father will make it because he's the chef. Well, again, that's crazy. He'll make it because he's their father. Fathers and mothers make breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks for the kids. So Candiace kind of sees her husband as the chef or the cook and kind of like a servant, and she doesn't realize that she's talking to these kids not about a chef or a cook or a servant, but as their dad. So she goes and she talks to her husband and tells him that he needs to make lunch for the kids. Then Candiace's mother calls up on FaceTime, and the mom asks what Candiace is doing. Candiace says she's supposed to be studying, and I agree, Candiace should be studying, because in the past episode we saw that Candiace can't even do simple math. So as an MBA student, I think she has a huge weakness in business. You can't do math. How are you going to do finances and figure out various financial problems? And then she says that she's going to have a lunch with Karen because she's still mad about last season when Monica and Candiace had a fight, and Karen came in neutral. She didn't support either one of them because they were both wrong, and that was the proper thing for Karen to do. But Candiace seems to think that Karen has to pledge some sort of allegiance to her for loyalty, and that if she doesn't do it, then she can't trust Karen. She will keep Karen at a distance, and that is crazy. I don't even know, it shows Candiace has a very bizarre way of thinking. And so when their lunch occurs, Karen says she is not at all upset or sorry about her stance of neutrality between Monica and Candiace when they had their fight, and she would do the same thing today, and that she felt that was the right thing to do. She should have remained neutral. I agree wholeheartedly, and I think Karen is a very smart businesswoman, and she is able to properly analyze situations and know when it's not right to take a stance. Well, Candiace is very offended that Karen did not bow to her and pledge allegiance to her and say she will back her up in all fights in the future because pledge of loyalty, and she decides that she will not trust Karen. She will keep her at a distance, and she will be a fake friend. Well, Candiace is already a fake friend, so that's nothing new. And I think Karen is doing the right thing. Support her 100%. And Candiace, well, she has a negative attitude. She's not as bad as Wendy, but she's almost as bad. And so Giselle leaves that luncheon, and she has maintained her freedom to think and decide issues for herself and not have to follow the lead of Candiace. What does come out during the mom's talk with Candiace is that, as Candiace is saying that Chris is going to be her husband manager of her singing career, acting career, or whatever, her mom says, well, you shouldn't have your husband manage all the money because he gave up his business in the restaurant business. He doesn't make any money, and he's going to be managing your money. And she did not think that was a good idea. So she has revealed, as I suspected, Chris is not making any money. Candiace had tried to portray him as making money by doing online cooking classes and something else online. But I didn't think that was true, and Candiace's mom has confirmed Chris is making no money, and he's playing golf. So he has adopted a very expensive hobby that makes him even more needy of money and is not contributing anything financially. Well, he did sell his share of his restaurant business, so he might have gained a certain amount of money in that sale of his share of the restaurant, but I don't know how much he actually earned from selling his share. In the next scene, Wendy comes to visit Karen. Karen is being looked at by Wendy as a mentor because Wendy wants to start a business. She's selling candles, and she needs the business expertise and mentoring from Karen, who is doing very well with her wig and perfume lines. So Karen offers her some food, and Wendy demands Nigerian food, which I think is extremely bizarre. I don't know where in the world she thought Karen was going to learn or desire to cook Nigerian food for her. If she wanted Nigerian food, she should have brought it to Karen's house and offered it to Karen if she wanted to sample some. So it starts off bizarre, and then Karen asks her lots of questions about routine things in starting a business. Wendy sounds really stupid in saying she only wrote one paragraph of a business plan. She has one product. She doesn't know who her audience is. She doesn't have any promotion of the product, so nobody desires this candle from her, and on and on. So Wendy does not sound like much of a businesswoman, and certainly does not sound like a future successful businesswoman, but maybe Karen can help. So the next scene, we're with Mia and her husband in their house, and her two children are there. She had those with her former husband, and her former husband and her current husband get along great, so she has a good situation. Then Mia goes on to talk in private with her husband about her trauma of childhood. Both of her parents, it seems, were addicted to drugs, and Mia ended up in foster care. And they show a picture of Mia, and she looks much as she looks now. And she struggled through foster care, and I am fully in support of foster children. They have such a hard time. And the fact that Mia has succeeded and got into a very profitable business and is in a good home life and able to provide a good home to her children, I think deserves huge applause and kudos to Mia. I think anyone who talks about her and the negative path she took as she struggled from foster care into making it into the mainstream and becoming a successful businesswoman should be ashamed, because if they have not helped foster children, many thousands of foster children across the United States who are in need of support and who get abused and trampled on and work their way up from under the bottom, naturally they're going to have a huge amount of sexual abuse, verbal abuse, bullying, beatings, and some die. And if you haven't helped these children through their struggle, please do not criticize them as they work their way out. They will go through periods of needing money because at 18 they age out of the system and they have to make their own money. And so many of them do go through sex trafficking, strip clubs, escort business, and other things, but it doesn't mean that they are bad people. It means they have not found support in the community, and they are trying to make it. Some do, some don't. But Mia was a success, and I applaud her hugely. Her story certainly tore at my heart. And I don't like Ashley always talking about her clitoral surgery and saying it in a derogatory way. And I don't like others who are always trying to criticize Mia. She's a strong lady who is ending up on the winning side of life. In the next scene, we go to the pamper party for Ashley, and everybody comes, and all of the relationships seem very phony. And it's the kind of situation where, personally, I would probably prefer to stay at home and read a good book rather than have to surround myself with so many phony people. But this is Bravo, and they have to do it for the money, so they all come and they try to tolerate each other. And they use this pamper party as just another opportunity to try to insult and embarrass Mia. But she's very strong. I'll tell you, kids in foster care have to do a lot of battles. They have to battle the new family, the new kids that they meet, the new schools they go to, and whether it's hostility because they look too great or hostility because they look too normal or they're bad looking or whatever, they learn how to defend themselves and survive. And Mia is a tough girl, and I really love to hear how she defends herself when all of these catty remarks are said, particularly by Ashley, Wendy, and, some others. But she's a strong person, and I really admire her. Mia says that she met her husband when she was a stripper at a gentleman's club. She wore a long gown at the club. She did not do pole dancing, and she said the customers just wanted to have her spend time with them, but they really did not want to have sex with her most of the time. I don't know what that means, but Mia is very open. I like that, how she just talks about these are the things she went through. And when you hear her history, you can understand if you have any compassion and empathy at all. And that's pretty much the end of this episode. In previews of the next episode, we see that Mia is going to openly confront her haters with her truths, and looks like Ashley's having her baby.